There is something about this story which really gets me going. So let's put this up there on the screen. It's just unbelievable. Moderna is suing Pfizer over the mRNA technology. The lawsuit, which was filed in both the US and Germany, alleges financial damages and says Moderna is claiming that two key elements of its intellectual property regarding the, quote, chemical modification of its mRNA platform, which Moderna claims that it was the first to demonstrate in human trials in 2015, has been copied by Pfizer in their COVID vaccine. The second infringement specifically focuses on the way that the vaccines target the spike protein on the outside of the virus. They say, quote, we are filing these lawsuits to protect the innovative mRNA technology platform that we pioneered, invested billions in creating, and patented during the decade prior to the preceding COVID-19 pandemic. So there's a hell of a lot to say about this. Number one, both of these vaccines would not exist without the extraordinary intervention of the Trump administration and the United States government. Moderna and Pfizer received unbelievable gifts from the US government. Number two, in terms of mRNA itself, actually, a lot of US government money was developed and put into creating that technology. So it's not just Moderna, by the way, that was one of the people that were quote unquote pioneers in the development of the platform, of the technology, spike protein research, etc. But beyond that, these companies, again, I mean, you remember, I think you did a whole monologue on this on Rising. There was at one point, there was like a road that was blocked, that was, you know, people were unable to, I think it was either Moderna or Pfizer was unable to get some supplies. The government literally took like National Guard military resources to commandeer this road and to make sure that supplies were getting to these folks.
Went and like stopped trains to get like critical parts off of, and intervened in their trials to make sure they were able to get the participants that they needed, moved heaven and earth, pumped $10.5 billion into these companies, and then we're like, here you go. Go make billions of dollars in profit at our expense.
FDA emergency authorization, full benefit and purchase agreements with the US government, extraordinary intervention on our behalf. And they went all the way to the bank. I mean, put this up there on the screen. Moderna itself has reaped $12 billion in profits from the vaccine sales just last year. $12 billion in profits from a company which was, you know, not necessarily doing all that well before that. Pfizer, put this one up there. Look at this. Pfizer has reached a $100 billion behemoth thanks to the COVID vaccine and to Paxlovid and other drugs that they have under their umbrella. Now look, you know, even if you're, put full-scale communist socialist aside, most people were like, all right, you know, the government came in here, look, Pfizer, Moderna, they did some of the technology. Yeah, it's okay, you know, you make a profit, whatever. But this is just unbelievable because they're taking technology developed by the US government, helped by the US government, purchase agreements by not just our government, governments all over the world, and they're like, now they're scrapping over who gets even a bigger piece of the pie. It's like, what, the bag wasn't big enough? And look, YouTube has revised its content policy, so apparently I can say this, but let's all be honest and just say the vaccine didn't work as well as we were originally promised. And so it's like you're suing over the vaccine, which, by the way, you know, originally in the marketing and the promises by both CDC officials, the FDA, and others, and even what you all claimed in the very beginning didn't even work as well as it was supposed to. Not saying it didn't save hundreds of millions of lives, probably did, but just on balance, just saying, a lot of people still got COVID, even though that wasn't exactly promised in the very beginning, including myself and you, Chris.
Yeah, was still very effective for severe illness and death.
Yeah.
That's the most important piece.
Put that aside.
A lot of people still got COVID.
Let's be honest.
Fair enough.
Right.
I will tell you, this is the type of story that does make me want to be a full fucking communist because you're like, screw these people. This research was funded by you, American taxpayer, over decades, and then even in this final stretch to get these vaccines to market, $10.5 billion pumped into these companies for them to then go and turn around and hog the recipe. The major vaccine scandal here was not that, you know, they didn't work well enough or whatever. The major vaccine scandal has always been the fact that they maintained their patent protection and that the Biden administration, the Trump administration first, but then the Biden administration allowed them to do that. And that kept critical vaccines from getting into the arms of people around the world. Moderna, at the beginning of this whole thing, they said they were not going to enforce their patents so that they could help other drug companies to develop their own jabs. What happened to that, Saagar? What the hell happened to that?
That's
now,
a great question.
okay, not only are they in a dispute with Pfizer, now they're suing Pfizer saying, oh, this is our technology that we developed, thank you very much. Now, they're also in an ongoing dispute with the U.S. National Institutes of Health over credit for key patents relating to the mRNA technology. So this is just so sociopathic that I cannot even wrap my head around it. You made billions of dollars in profit off of the backs of the US government and the US taxpayer. And you have the nerve to turn around and pretend like this was all your idea and you developed it all in-house. Get out of here.
You know,
it's
the other thing,
unbelievable.
the U.S. government maintains the right, if they want, to actually come in and knock their patent protection, given the amount of extraordinary intervention. I forget exactly what the legal mechanism is called.
Is it March-in rights? Is that what it is?
Something, I think it's called March-in rights. I'll have to go back and read the law. We did a lot on this back in,
I think this is the Bayh-Dole Act
right.
that provides the power to be able to do this. Yeah. And
now seems like a reasonable time.
There was always, at the World Health Organization, there was always a proposal, I think South Africa and other countries, that India, I believe, backed this idea of like, listen, this is an extraordinary emergency. At the beginning of the pandemic, remember, everybody was like, we're all in it together, World War II style mobilization, we're gonna beat this thing. And then the minute there was a little bit of money to be made, suddenly it was every man for himself. And, they were perfectly happy to charge rich countries a premium, send them, all the doses, and hog up the patent technology for themselves and not allow generics to be replicated around the world, even though, and this was something we documented extensively in the Intercepted Great Reporting on, even though there were factories around the world that were like ready to go. Just give us the recipe and we can spin out doses right away. That has always been the greatest scandal of the whole vaccine situation. And now this is just salt in the wound that they are willing to go in and say, these are ours, and how dare Pfizer even develop their own vaccine. Like, that's your complaint, is that there were too many vaccines out there, too available to people? Come on.
And they're actually ready to make even more money. Let's put this up there, both of them, by the way. Latest COVID boosters are set to roll out even before human testing has been completed. The U.S. government is now expected to authorize new booster shots without a staple of its normal decision-making process. Data from a study showing whether the shots were safe.
Are these are the ones that are like for the updated
These are like the Omicron-specific boosters. I mean, look, you guys can make your own personal decisions. If you're in the risk category or whatever, maybe consider it. Talk to your doctor. But just shows the extraordinary deference both companies have found in the distribution of this vaccine. They get all these emergency use authorizations. They're not under the same due scrutiny of even a normal drug through a very flawed FDA approval process. And yeah, I mean, in terms of past statements, efficacy, none of it being evaluated. FDA and CDC still pushing these things out there. So you can make your own choice how exactly these things. But at a bottom line, somebody's paying for it, and it's definitely the U.S. government. And while they're in the midst of active litigation, which is unbelievable, really, when you consider it.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.